Hi, my name is Sophia and I'm the co-director and co-author of In This Body of Flame.
My name is Madeline Kessner, and I helped write the script for In This Body of Flame for the Fringe, and I will also help with directing.
So the play is about Samuel Pepys. He was a man who lived in the 1600s and he kept a diary for 10 years every single day. And he was quite an important man in history because he was head of the navy. He was really close with the king. He witnessed the plague, the fire of London, the invasion of the Danes. He witnessed a lot of things, and he wrote them down. And when the fire took over London, his diary was one of the only things that survived. So a lot of historians use that to sort of figure out what happened. But basically, because of that, it resulted in this very privileged man's point of view being the only surviving point of view from that historic time.
When I was writing, I did not know anything about him, so I had to do some research, but it is an historical, ambiguous retelling of his life and the Great Fire of London. And the characters that you meet along the way throughout the play are people from his life, but that's the ambiguous part because you sort of begin to see that they're not really there, and it is all Samuel's imagination sort of forming the story. So it's very ambiguous, very odd, non-traditional in the slightest.
It's so close. It's so important, and it can be like, I just felt like SUDS had so much talent and so much desire to be in theatre and not just like as a little hobby or a university society. And I just thought it made sense. Like, we're literally less than an hour away, so why not?
Sophia, who organized this whole play, and it was really her idea. She came to me and asked me if I could write the script for it, and I just kind of knocked it out in 2 to 4 days, and it was really random. It wasn't meant to happen, but I'm really glad it did. I think Sophia and I wrote a really unique story that is very non-traditional and very fun.
My name's Charlie Grant, and I'm playing both Samuel Pepys and the Fire.
I'm Teddy, and I'm playing both Samuel Pepys and the Fire.
I'm Ailsa, and I'm playing Elizabeth Pepys.
My name is Freya, and I'm playing the maid.
My name is Callum, and I play the role of Monarchy.
My name is Amelia Finucane, and I am playing the plague.
My name is Oliver, and I play the general in the play.
I am Shani, and I am an understudy for the general.
How we're typically doing it right now is that we sort of break up the rehearsals. So when we're doing full rehearsals, I play Samuel Pepys for one of them, and then Teddy does the next one, and then we alternate the Fire in like a similar way as well.
It's really fun seeing the different perspective we both take on the characters. So I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really good for both of us to like take the character in different ways.
So Samuel Pepys is like the main character, the sort of lead of who the whole play is about, really. And it's sort of centered around him writing this journal, which I think, maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but it's like the most comprehensive journal of all time. He wrote like pretty much every day for just under 10 years, I believe it was, and he chronicled like so much historical time of like the plague, and most importantly the Great Fire. If you've ever read anything about the Great Fire of London, it's most likely from Samuel Pepys' diary.
So he's got an interesting role where he's just kind of shown as an asshole, like a debaucherous bastard. He's a really interesting character to play, who is a really interesting role in the play.
Elizabeth plays a narrative role in the story. She's there to show the audience that Samuel's affairs and his controversial decisions did have a real life impact on her and the other people around him. and she's there to sort of bring his ego down and show him that he's not this amazing person he thinks he is.
So she is one of Samuel's mistresses, and she's kind of there to bring to light that Samuel's been cheating on his wife, basically, with many different people.
Well, the monarchy is Charles I, and as you may know, he was the King of England, and well, he is sort of like the pompous titular high authority to Samuel Pepys.
So in this story, I basically haunt Samuel. I come back and I remind him that he is being a narcissistic rich person, and I kind of make him feel bad for not acknowledging the plague, basically, in his diaries.
So the general is sort of this judgment type character, I think, for Samuel. He's sort of this embodiment of dishing out the cold hard truth to him. Obviously, Samuel has a lot of problematic retellings of history and how he wrote things in his diary, and I feel the general is sort of there to reveal to the audience and to himself about kind of his egotistical and selfish way of his diary.
Apparently, when Madeline joined the writing process, she thought the general was an actual general, so she made him more like general-like of, oh, I was your commander, when actually he was just meant to be general information. So now he's a bit of both.
I think the way that we've portrayed Samuel in the play is really interesting, because we sort of play him as this character of almost hubris. He's quite, like quite full of himself, and he feels like he's going to really make his mark on history, which is something that I think is quite interesting to play, because you need to show that sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? You need to show that arrogance behind the character, so that you can sort of tell, like, for me it was a lot about facial expressions and like gait and stuff like that, how the character walks, talks, that sort of confidence of a military man who's feels like he controls the room instantly.
Samuel Pepys is just for a character to play, he's a very, very emotional, scared, pathetic man, and I'm not very used to playing serious characters or serious roles. So I think what attracted me to Samuel Pepys and this play to act in was to really push myself out of doing comedic roles where I'm comfortable, happy doing it, and to do this really kind of serious, emotional play.
I think a lot of the other characters are quite powerful and loud, but I think Elizabeth finds her power in her quietness and the fact that she doesn't raise her voice, and I think that's quite a challenge to play as an actor.
So she's quite out-the-box character for me. I usually play like the meek and mild woman, but she's quite a strong, very strong character, so it's kind of a challenge for me, and I'm excited to play her.
Well, originally I had actually auditioned for the general, but then the cast and crew decided to examine me a bit further. So they asked me if I could audition for the role of the monarchy, and when they were like asking for just when they were asking me to be like all camp and like weird, I was thinking, oh, this sounds really fun. So I just thought I'd give it a shot.
I think it's a really fun character because it's really physical. So I'm crawling around the place, I get to scream, I get to shout.
Stop! Who are you? What are you?
There's a lot of emotions going on. But yeah, basically that. I think I get to be very creative with it.
You just give a cool contrast to Samuel, and it's sort of he acts as this bridge between the audience and him, kind of makes Samuel regret and look back at his past mistakes, and it's slowly tormenting him.
I initially did not audition for the general, but now that I have played him, I think he's quite fun. He puts Samuel in this place. He basically calls him out on every single lie that he's been telling, and he's like, no, that's not true, and you know it's not true, so stop lying to yourself.
I think the story of Samuel is definitely one of almost being cautious about how you devote yourself. That's how I see it anyway. It's an interesting way to look at ambition, and I think that's something hopefully that we'll be able to reevaluate or have people think about a bit more.
This whole play set around Samuel Pepys, who was in the 1600s, and he supplied a lot, I think a lot of historians see him as the main kind of supply of material, first-hand witnesses to these events in that time. A lot else was lost in that period, especially in the Great Fire of London when all the libraries were burnt as well. So I think it's a really important story to tell of the man behind these stories and these accounts, but also of his life and character. And I think it's a really interesting period of history to tell as well.
I think Samuel Pepys' story has been told quite a lot over the years, especially through his diary, but I think it's quite an arrogant side of the story, and so I think this is bringing something new and fresh and showing the other characters around him and their side of his story.
It's kind of cool because he was not a good guy at all, and I guess maybe he's not really known to be a terrible guy. I guess first and foremost he's a reference for the Great Fire of London, but he was actually kind of a bastard. And yeah, I like my character because she kind of brings all that to light.
Well, it's kind of, because as it's based on actual history, it's sort of like the story's trying to expose people with power and hypocrisy and thinking that they're all entitled, and just trying to understand that these people were really wicked people.
Because it's a piece of history, it is based on the written diary of Samuel Pepys, following the time of the plague, and I think it shows his very privileged view, especially on my character in the situation of the plague. Yeah, and I think it's interesting to look at the power dynamics of the rich and the poor, even back in those days.
I feel like Samuel Pepys, he was known for his diary and his retelling of major events during the 17th century. He was, this sort of prominent figure, and he wrote of himself a lot. And I feel like the way he retold events isn't what reflected true history. And I think my character brings that out of him. It kind of makes him realize, it kind of makes him face the past, face what he's actually done, makes him realize that he's got really problematic storytelling through his diary, and it's kind of breaks down his character and makes him see him for who he really is.
I don't know. I've never heard of Samuel Pepys before now. I thought it was a made-up story, and I was like, wow, they're so creative. This is incredible.